What if I told you that some nations borrow money not to build schools or fight disease, but to stay alive? And worse, that by borrowing, they sign away their future, piece by piece, to bureaucrats in Washington, financiers in London, or ministries in Beijing. Borrowing isn't altruism, it's leverage. This is Shadow Reports, where we don't just read the headlines. We tear them open and show you the confidential memo underneath. Today, we'll see how global loans become modern chains, how the IMF, the World Bank, and powerful creditors turn loans into control, and why some states are never free, no matter how many payments they make. If you want to see how money really rules the world, hit subscribe, because in this global game, debt is the sharpest weapon. 2. The global debt boom. Let's start with the numbers, because they're terrifying. Developing countries collectively paid $1.4 trillion in 2023 just to service their foreign debts. Interest, fees, penalties. That's money that could have built hospitals, roads, or climate defenses. Yet, it's vanishing into bond yields and creditor fees. Source, World Bank. The total external debt of low- and middle-income countries rose by over $200 billion in 1 year. Meanwhile, many of these nations already spend more in a year servicing debt than in educating all their children. IMF estimates suggest that over 60% of low-income countries are either in distress or teetering on the edge. That means more than half of the developing world is one bad harvest, one currency crash, one pandemic away from default. So yes, the debt burden is not just large, it's existential. 3. Conditionality. The fine print you never read. When a country borrows from the IMF or World Bank, the check doesn't come alone. It arrives strapped with conditions, stipulations about how the country must run its economy, policy by policy. These aren't suggestions. They are binding. Want to borrow $5 billion? Fine. But first you privatize your utilities. Then you cut subsidies. Then you devalue your currency. Then you freeze wages. And yes, reduce spending on social welfare. Studies show that countries under structural adjustment often suffer higher unemployment, cuts to basic services, and slower growth. So while ministers clap in the corridors, ordinary citizens feel the squeeze. But it gets worse. Sometimes, loans are linked to policy strings that benefit the lender's own industries. Want to buy a new regional railway? Great, but the contract must go to a foreign corporation. Need power plants? Fine, with turbines from the lender's factories. That's not development aid. That's vendor lock-in with sovereign collateral. 4. The trap mechanism, borrow, pay, reborrow. Now imagine a country that borrows to pay off previous debt. It's like refinancing your credit card with another one. The principal never shrinks, just the illusion of solvency. Many nations now allocate more than 40%, sometimes 50%, of their annual revenue just to cover interest. That leaves nothing for hospitals, nothing for climate adaptation, nothing for decent jobs. When the crisis deepens, these nations beg for reform loans, and the cycle repeats. Welcome to the debt treadmill, always running, never arriving. Countries that try to break free risk default, and defaults invite harsh punishments. Cut off from new loans, economic sanctions, investor flight. So politically, many leaders have no choice. They keep borrowing, constrained by the very system that enslaved them. 5. The key players, IMF, China, bilateral creditors. Let's meet the architects. IMF and World Bank. These are the official lenders. The ones saying, we're here to help stabilize. But every dollar they lend comes with oversight, staff monitoring, daily reports, and the power to veto policies. Even the IMF's own evaluation panels admit that structural adjustment often fails to produce sustained growth. Still, governments accept them because the alternative is chaos. China/state lenders. In recent decades, Chinese lenders have become among the most important players in global debt through infrastructure and resource deals, roads for oil, ports for access. China offers seemingly generous loans, but those loans often have hidden clauses, inflated costs, and default triggers. Some analysts argue they use debt to extract strategic concessions, access rights, control over land, preferential sovereignty. Whether that intentional or not, the effect is real. Influence masked as investment, private bondholders/creditors. Then there are hedge funds and bondholders who buy distressed debt, often for pennies on the dollar, and then sue for full value. They have no stake in development. Their only interest, return. These are the vultures, circling capitals in distress, ready for legal battles. In courtrooms across the world, they win judgments, seize assets, drag nations through injunctions, all under global arbitration treaties. Which raises this question: is sovereignty now a contract you sign away? 6. Real cases, nations in chains. Let's zoom into real stories. Made in reality, not fantasy. Sri Lanka. By 2022, Sri Lanka collapsed under debt. Unable to import food, fertilizers, fuel. Under IMF rescue, it agreed to major cuts, devaluation, and privatization. Power plants, highways, ports, all part of new concession deals. Many locals say it felt like handing over the keys to their own country. Zambia, agricultural economy, heavy borrowing. Then commodity prices fall. Zambia defaulted in 2020. Now creditors drag it into restructuring. Some deals demand mineral rights, privatization of water systems, even control over future revenues. In effect, what is left of sovereignty becomes leasehold. Argentina. Argentina has flirted with default often. In recent IMF deals, the conditionality again demanded austerity, tax hikes, and cuts. Public outrage, inflation, social unrest. Still, the cycle continues. Because refusing IMF means economic collapse. Refusing investors means isolation. In every case, citizens pay far more than written in the loan contract. 7. The hidden price, loss of sovereignty. When you borrow under these terms, you don't just incur debt, you relinquish power. Key sectors are open to foreign control. Ports, utilities, energy. New rules may favor foreign companies. Laws are reshaped to satisfy lender demands. Legal immunity for foreign investors. Dispute resolution outside your courts. Basically, a shadow governance structure sits over your state, whispering, "We own part of you now." We call it structural dependency. It's subtle, it's invisible, it's legal. But when your Ministry of Finance bows to a foreign creditor's auditor, who's really governing? 8. Resistance, reform, and escape routes. Can countries break the trap? Yes, but it's hard. Debt restructuring is one option. Cut interest, extend maturities, even partial write-downs. IMF's DSF framework aims to ensure sustainable debt, but critics say it's toothless when private lenders resist. Transparency reform is essential. Make all terms public. Expose hidden clauses. Some nations declare they'll refuse unethical loans. Jamaica experimented. Ecuador renegotiated variables. The key is political will. When citizens demand sovereignty over spreadsheets, change becomes possible. 9. The stakes and conclusion. This isn't a finance lecture. It's about life, dignity, and who rules the world. Debt used well can build. Debt used maliciously can conquer. Global finance now wears a suit and a smile, but it wields chains. A nation that repays every loan today might owe its future tomorrow. Next time you hear IMF bailout, don't imagine charity. Imagine a ledger. Imagine clauses. Imagine who holds the pen. If you found this revealing, the traps, the deals, the hidden power, join us. Subscribe to Shadow Reports, because we'll keep pulling back that curtain. Because maps are drawn on paper, but real control is negotiated in debt.